Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
James the Wildcard.
How's it going?
Not bad. What's up?
Not much. Oh, by the way, a late congratulations to your graduating.
Thank you.
Now get a job!
Hey, that's the plan. That is the plan. So, you know how we were talking about the Arkham games last time?
Yes. Yes, we were.
I was able to find Origins pretty cheap, so I picked it up.
Nice.
And I found myself doing better in the flowing combat in this one than the other two for some reason. I don't know why. One thing that constantly throws me off is the first two games. L2 is for detective mode, if I believe, and L1 and doing something else was to do like quick shots.
Okay.
But they switched it, so L2 is the quick shot and L1's detective mode. So every time I'm trying to do quick shots, I go into detective mode or come out of detective mode. I'm like, dang it, I keep forgetting because it's switched from what I can remember, if I remember correctly. I was like, why is it switched? Because I just finished playing through Arkham City again just for fun. And so you go from that, and I go into Origins, and I'm like, why am I not quit anything? What's going on here? So that just takes some getting used to. But I was thinking something the other day. You take this free flow combat mode that they have, plus the quick shooting of stuff, and you kind of maybe you put it together with something, with some features maybe out of either Infamous or something like Prototype. And I think if you have to do obvious recoding and changes of it, but this style I think worked really well for an Iron Man game that isn't terrible.
An Iron Man game that isn't terrible.
Because you can have, you would, instead of gliding, you'd actually have flight, so you can have a bigger open world. And you could still use the free flow combat system for when he kind of lands and starts punching dudes, because he's known to do that. And then you could quick shoot your repulsors or whatever else that you can unlock, as you get your equipment, more equipment over time. And I think it would play. I think an Iron Man game could benefit from that type of combat system. Plus you have to modify it because he's Iron Man. And he can fly. But other than that, I just...
Batman can still beat him, though.
Yeah, of course, because, prep time and all.
Batman.
I really hate the whole prep time argument.
We all do, but let's go on to other things.
Yes, but that was just my random thought of the day. I'm like, an Iron Man game using this system would actually be pretty ballin', because you could, punch and then quick repulsor blast somebody into a building.
Nice.
Who doesn't like repulsor blasts?
People who get hit by repulsor blasts.
Well, they shouldn't have been in the way.
That is true. This is funny. I just saw a very funny picture. It's a bunch of kids playing Magic. Yeah. And it says, teach your kids how to play Magic. They won't have money for drugs.
It's true.
It is very true.
It really will keep them out of anything. They won't have money for gas. They won't have money for anything.
Yep. They won't have money for bad habits.
Exactly.
But other stuff also, I think we should take a quick moment here to pay our respects to a legend that we lost this past week.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the ever so talented and glorious man known as Leonard Nimoy passed away this past week, due to some sort of lung condition.
Yeah, COPD.
Yes.
Which, it'll get you.
Yep.
But he had a pretty severe case from what I understand about it, where even just walking would get him winded. So, badly winded. But, it is a shame. Luckily, he was 83, so he was able to live a nice long life and do a lot of things, which is good. And it's still unfortunate we lost him, but, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are going to be like, who's Leonard Nimoy, in life?
Yes, there will. But for us who knew him, we'll know.
Well, who knew I wouldn't say I know him, but,
We knew him. We knew him. He was quite the logical man.
Right.
It makes watching, because I've been watching the original Star Trek recently, it makes watching it a little sadder because I'm like, oh, he just passed away.
Yeah, it's true. But
I do have to say I feel a little bad for Shatner because this was one funeral he would have wanted to go to and he couldn't.
Yeah, see that I'm split on that because it was something with a charity event, right?
He was at a charity organization and he couldn't get out of his obligations, so he was at the charity event while the funeral went on.
See, I mean, I get sometimes it's hard to get out of stuff, but that, I don't think. I mean, it's Shatner, so he's kind of, damned if you do, damned if you don't do something. Because if he left the charity event, they'd be like, oh, well, that's Shatner just leaving, even though he's going to his friend's funeral. And then if he's not going to a funeral to commit to the thing that he could just up and leave, but would probably have negative consequences for him. And so if he stays there and does his charity event, which is for charity and is good, he's viewed as a heartless guy as well for not going to his friend's funeral.
And they're going to say it's the James Doohan thing all over again.
Right. But so I mean, I get. It was rapid from death to funeral.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Like a day.
So, he's Jewish, right?
I don't know, to be honest, but I was thinking about there are some mortuary practices where it has to be in the ground within 24 hours.
Yeah, because that's I think he was part of his religious thing, which is why it was so quick.
Which is fine, and which is
fine.
Yeah, which is why I can understand Shatner kind of being blindsided, even though to try and get out of something because literally no way to get to there, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also kind of like when they say, I don't want to hear an excuse unless it's a death or something. Well, this is that excuse you can use.
Yeah.
In a sense or something. So, I mean, they were friends, I'm sure, and I know he tweeted something about it. So
he tweeted a bunch of tweets about it. And it was and like I said, it's the sad thing. It's probably the only cast member he liked out of all of them because stories I hear like. Even in Mr. Sulu's book, I think he kind of mentioned that everyone but Nimoy didn't get along with him.
Yeah, Shatner was kind of a jerk in a lot of people's eyes. And
he was.
Fair enough. When you see how when you hear some stories about him, I could definitely see why. But forgetting the fact that Shatner and Nimoy and his two friends, it is a shame that he couldn't get there, and all those things. So I look at it as. I'm not going to do well. That's Shatner because that's really terrible to say. It's unfortunate for him. I'm sure he has paid or will pay respects in his own way anyway. So, and of course, you feel bad for the family, of course.
Yes.
But, at least it's not like a really young actor or somebody who was cut tragically down.
Yeah.
At least he had a nice
long
life.
In the prime of his life, and he had a long and healthy career.
Yeah, which is it's a silver lining type of thing. I know.
Yeah,
but that is a thing to a positive to look on. He had a nice long life.
Yes.
So, if you don't know who Leonard Nimoy is,
look him up. He's worth looking up.
Yeah, you probably do, and just didn't even realize it, to be honest.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who are just who know Spock, they just don't know the name of the actor.
He is also one of those actors that, Spock, obviously.
Yep.
But if you've seen he was the voice.
3 Men and a Baby, he
also did some voice acting.
Yep, he directed 3 Men and a Baby. He was in a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's all those things where he's been in so many, but I can't name one.
He was the original Galvatron, right?
He is the original Galvatron.
Right, so if you saw the Unicron movie, he was Galvatron's voice.
Yep.
And then he was the other Prime in
Yep, he was the Prime in Revenge of the Dark of the Moon.
Dark of the Moon. He was that guy. But I forget his name in that one.
I forget his name, but he was a
Sentinel
villain.
Prime?
Sentinel Prime, that's it.
He was Sentinel Prime in that one. So, Which is why I say maybe you do know of him at some way, but you maybe not, because he was one of those actors. I'm not gonna say he gets lost in a role, but he's one of those actors that people more know his character than his name.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's not like Robin Williams, where you probably know him by his name because of what he's done, so many different things. It's not that case. It's a case of you know probably the character Leonard Nimoy did, but not his name. So.
Yes.
So yeah, that happened. And I don't know. There's no real way to segue from that. So Forge World.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. We're discovering a new planet, a Forge World.
There we go. But one thing I have to say, they still have yet to do another PDF for like how they painted up some of their legions for Horus Heresy.
Yeah, which is kind of angering.
What I do hope, and it's something that they would either have to wait and do until after all the legions are put out in a publication, or they could do it as a tease, is if they do some type of masterclass like their Imperial Armor masterclass books for
Horus Heresy edition.
For Horus Heresy to show us how to paint all the legions. Because, not that, for example, Sons of Horus, which they did do, is a green that you just can't get. You got to mix it up. But particularly of the legions that they haven't done yet that they've shown us, the Alpha Legion color scheme is amazingly cool. I really like it, but I have no idea how I would even try to do that.
I have heard, I could be wrong, but I have heard that at a recent Forge World Weekender, they're going to be introducing new airbrush paints, and a lot of them are going to be like, the Horus Heresy, the Sons of Horus green and all this, and to help make some of those Chapter Legion colors,
right,
and paint them quickly.
Which is good. I mean, because of the Alpha Legion one, it's almost like it's a light bluish metallic with green hues depending upon when the light hits it and when you want to put it for effect, and it's something that I would like to know how you achieve that.
Yeah.
People,
I would.
Because you don't just buy a paint like that and slap it on.
No, you don't.
And
yes.
And I do know Forge World does kind of hold seminar type stuff at Weekenders for painting stuff, but
yes,
not everybody can fly out to the UK and and do that. So a book wouldn't go amiss. It would be probably pretty well received, especially of course if you did all 18 legions in it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, every book loves a sequel for Forge World, so you could do you could call it Horus Heresy and Masterclass Volume 1. The legions.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can do Horus Heresy and Masterclass Volume 2, Solar Auxilia and Mechanicum.
Yep.
And stuff. And
you could do a whole bunch with those and just milk them.
Right. And the thing is, the nice thing about Forge World's books is I own both the Masterclass books. They're really, really well done. They really go into good detail. They show you everything they use. It's not about product placement. It's about what they use, and they show you that. And they're using, of course, Citadel stuff as much as they can. But they don't make oil paints, and they're showing you how to do weathering effects with oil paint. So they're saying get oil paint. They're not sugarcoating it, and they're doing stuff. And it's really well laid out. In fact, in the second book, they do a really cool kind of like fake lacquering look, where it makes it really smooth, pristine color, and they
Ooh, that sounds nice.
They do it on an Eldar Titan to make that really cool, smooth, perfect color look, and polished and everything. And it looks really good. And they also go over ways to kind of plan out how to make a gaming board. Like if you're gonna get foam so you can cut into it and put stuff on top of it, they go over a whole way of how to basically create a gaming board. And which is good to know, because it's not just, put terrain down. It's okay, do you want to cut it? Do you want to cut river into it? Do you want blast marks? What do you want on here? Here's how we do it on our boards. And if you follow along, you can have a pretty cool looking board. So those things are cool, and the Horus Heresy is such a milk-heavy product. And what they could do, if they did it, I would want to see Sons of Horus have the Sons of Horus color scheme kind of put back in there in more detail. Yeah. How they do the just Starin / Reavers, because those are black armored guys, and that's a different look. So how they achieve that, and why not put the Luna Wolves in there? Because that's what they used to be, and that way you're kind of not milking it, but you're giving content. And then for something like a Death Guard, which you go, well, what about Death Guard? Well, you can do it like this: Death Guard color scheme. You can do their Unification era Dusk Raiders color scheme. A sample of that in case anybody, because Unification has a pretty good following for people wanting to collect it. So if you do the Dust Graders, and then what you can do in the Death Guard section is how they do the super weathering ship paint look that the Death Guard are known for. It's a weathering technique that can be applied to any Legion, but you put it in the Death Guard section.
Yeah.
So, and then you repeat process with World Eaters. You put gore in their section, and you just go that way, and it helps fill it out and gives every Legion has
something.
A better chance of having more in there than just my color scheme and that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Forge Rule, if you're listening, there you go. I spelt it out for you. Have at it.
One thing, some little bit of also news. Supposedly, the GW Forge World at a lot of these weekenders tends to announce their timetables as to what the next series is going to be and where they kind of hope to stand on it, like their projected timetables. And they announced 3 campaigns, the next 3 books. One of them being let's see. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Supposedly, we have that Book 7 will be Prospero, and it will be coming out in 18 months. Projectedly. Which I'm excited for. We also have the Shadow Crusade, and another book. I can't remember the life of me what it was called.
Ultramar or something?
No, it was something to do with the Ultramarines.
Yeah, but
that was the Shadow Crusade.
Well, the Shadow Crusade was the book after dealing with the Ultramarines.
Yes.
So there was a book that was gonna, I forget the title, but it was a book that was gonna do the Ultramarines, something very blatantly Ultramarine in there in the title.
Yeah.
And then Shadow Crusade was the book immediately following it. My problem with that is the Shadow Crusade is a battle that you could fluff out more than what it is, because right now currently it's just World Eaters, Word Bearers, and Ultramarines, and the World Eaters are a recent addition to that. But it was Word Bearers and versus Ultramarines, and then you got World Eaters in there as well. All those legions would be covered by the time of this book, meaning it would just be another filler book.
Caliph. That was the first book. Book 5 was going to be Caliph, Book 6 will be Shadow Crusade, and Book 7 is Prospero, which they're projecting to be out next August.
Which I have to say I don't buy, because you have 2 books before that. That's 18 months is not enough time for that, based on the current release of their books.
Unless, like you said, the Shadow Crusade is a filler book, and it's just going to be really pop 1-2 and they pop it out real quick. Right,
but my only thing, like looking at it, the first 3 books, their timetable was, to get to book 3 from book 1 took longer than 18 months, and even from book 3 to book 4 was a decent span as well. And we still haven't. And book 4's been out for a bit now. We don't have book 5 yet, so I think 18 months to get to book 7 is pretty fast. It would be nice for a change, but pretty fast. And I say it would be nice because you get people waiting on rules for the legions, and of course Prospero would include Space Wolves and Thousand Suns at the very least.
Yep.
So you would have 2 new legions being put out. Calth is Ultramarine sector stuff. That's definitely going to have Ultramarines, if hopefully at least one other thing, because just 1 new legion isn't enough for me personally. But Shadow Crusade, the only thing I think they could add to Shadow Crusade, because while book 4 was a filler book, it gave us the Solar Auxilia,
Yes.
I mean, so you could say still some new content stuff, which I'll agree, but I say filler in terms of Legion rules, because those should be first. Basically, this is a story of Legions. But in Shadow Crusade, I don't know what they're going to add there for new content-wise. The only thing I could think of is they can kind of flesh it out and include the stories of the Assassins and give us, that era of Assassin stuff. That would give some new content and potential and stuff going on there, but who knows? Maybe they'll throw a whole new legion into the Shadow Crusade, which is fine, whatever. It's just that as it's known now, that is something that would probably sounds like filler. And I'm looking forward to the Ultramarines, because so many people give them a hard time being just like the vanilla legion, the vanilla chapter, but that their whole thing is that they're follow this big book of knowledge of how to fight in any type of warfare scenario. Big Book of War by Zep Brannigan. Exactly. That's what they follow. And so their genericness jack of all tradesness is something that's kind of more uniquely them. Because Imperial Fist, you could say, follow that, but they have a predisposition to siege and fortification. Raven Guard don't really follow it because they got a predisposition to infiltration. So having a Legion where it's like, what's your strength? Our strength is being able to take care of anything, at any time. Jack of all trades sounding is Ultramarine specific. So I'm curious to see what they do. Plus, they have a really cool Roman look, and I know there's going to be some pretty sick stuff coming our way for that.
Yep.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Speaking of sick things, what do you think of Maragal Tainted Dreadnoughts?
Oh, the word bearer dreadnought, essentially?
Yep, the special character dreadnought.
Yeah, the possessed dreadnought, essentially. Yep. The possessed contemptor, really.
The Maragal Tainted Dreadnought. He's under the character series for some reason.
Right. Let me put it this way. They did a very nice sculpt to him. The detail is there. It's not crummy. It's very well done. I'm not a fan of the look because I'm not a fan of possessed look stuff in general. Like, that's not my cup of tea, but I think they did a very good job with them.
Yeah, this one is just like, I'm not a big fan because like I think the corruption on this is a little over the top, in my opinion. There's some that I really enjoy, like the world, like those possessed dudes, the Galvarback.
Yeah, the Galvarback.
I like those dudes. But for this one, I'm just like, I think because it looks a little too Nurgle-y for my taste, and I'm not a fan of Nurgle.
I could see where it has maybe a Nurgle look in some people's eyes, especially the kind of cloven hoof aspect on one foot, but and the one horn on the head. But I like it in terms of being over the top, in terms of the Galvarback are different from normal possessed. They were possessed by stronger demons because the whole fluff about the Galvarback is Chaos basically had to trick you into thinking you're really going to bolster you up. So the possessed that we know in 40K are nowhere near the power level of the possessed of the Galvarback. The Galvarback possessed were juiced up to such a level they could fight on the same plateau as Custodian Guard. That's how juiced up they were.
And Custodian Guards are nasty.
They are, and it should be known that most of the Galvarback were killed during the Heresy time period anyway, by the Custodian Guard and by Korax. But my point is they're supposed to be grander, bigger, better than the possessed. And this is I guess, I don't know why it's a character series model, but this Tainted Dreadnought is probably one of the first of its kind, so I'm okay with that. If it is, and that whole notion, I'm okay with that being kind of over-the-top possessed, because it's kind of like, check this stuff out, and like, we're going to hit you with everything we got, to reel you in. It's just that I'm not a fan of the possessed look, period. Like, I think they did a good job with the detail. I mean, there's a lot of detail there, much like Forge World detail. I can't imagine trying to paint it. As with a lot of Forge World models, look at it and go, that looks awesome. I don't want to paint you. This thing has got the detail. It looks good. You can clearly see where the old helmet was and the stuff splitting out of it. And
you've got some interesting rules, too.
Yeah, but it's just, model-wise, it's not my look that I like. I'm not a possessed, chaos, tainted, mutated fan, period. No matter what
That's why you play Thousand Suns.
Yeah, because they went, we're not mutating, we're going to turn to dust.
Yep. They turned to dust to prevent themselves from mutating.
Yeah, it was kind of a byproduct of that. That's
because
just
of one man.
That's my take on, well, anybody who was a sorcerer didn't, but I said
because of one man. I said, not
one
just
man,
one
man and his coven of thugs.
Yep. Who went, we don't want.
Yeah. He looks, but it's a good look. The one thing that I'm kind of pretty curious on, to be honest, is the new Core and Bloodthirster model. I think it looks pretty cool. And it has bases for both 40K and Fantasy, but I've yet to see it really like a good picture with like on his base and then like a normal infantry dude for size, because it is pretty pricey and I don't know his exact size. I imagine he's big.
I imagine he's big. I'm imagining he's like Nagesh size.
Yeah, he could be.
If
like
maybe a little smaller.
He's on a 60 by 100 millimeter base, and I don't know what typically goes on bases of that size, because that implies it's not a circle. And
that square looks like it's usually reserved for like the dragons and the chariots.
Right. So, I mean, again, because we haven't, or at least I haven't seen a picture of it next to easily enough where I can say, okay, they're standing in the same, right next to each other. What's the size difference? But he does look pretty big.
He does look pretty big, yes, and he does look pretty awesome.
He does.
The blurry pictures that we got before did not do him justice.
No, it didn't. And what I like about it is it's not your typical put-together one-way thing. It's an actual true multi-part plastic kit.
Yes.
Which, the stuff that they offer where it's kind of like no real posability allowed, maybe a head swap, looks good. I don't mind them that much, but having it be a true multi-part plastic kit, I think, is much better.
I do like the corn symbols also on his wings.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of cool symbols there.
Or corn.
Yeah, corn, because Karn is the dude. Corn.
Yes.
Corn on the cob is the god.
Yes, is the god. The god of corn.
Do they still offer in the Hobbit the Balrog model?
I think he's still around.
Because that is an awesome model to get for any type of demon, period. Especially a corn demon. Because that thing is
Hobbit.
Awesome.
Well, Hobbit. I don't want Hobbit. I want Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings miniatures, the Fallen Realms.
I just don't know where he would be put in, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the problem. They can't just they just generalized everything.
Probably in Moria, in the Mines of Moria. There's Dweller in the Dark, which also looks pretty cool, and the Balrog.
They have a dragon, the Watcher in the Water, a cave drake, the Dweller in the Dark, Gravla the Terror. I don't know who any of these characters are.
Me either, the Balrog model is still there, and that is still a fantastic-looking model.
Yep. I think they added to him, because I don't remember him having the flames on his feet before.
Me either. But...
Yeah, no, in this image here, he doesn't have the flames on his feet. That's an added-up thing.
Yeah. But, I would say, nothing against the corn stuff or anything like that, but if you want a demon, especially if you want more of, let's say, a generic, something that's not branded by a god. Because you could easily paint up this Balrog with bluish or greenish flames and have a Tzeentch or Nurgle demon, so... Yeah. It looks really cool. I really like the Balrog model.
Balrog.
No, nothing about the game of The Hobbit. Don't care to, but the model's fantastic.
Yeah, the game. If the game goes away tomorrow, I would not be saddened.
Me either. I'm sure there's like a dozen people who would be, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it doesn't. When I think the setting of The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, I don't think miniature war game. I think RPG.
Another thing is also the game. A good chunk of it is reenacting scenes from the books and such. And if you already know how the game's supposed to end, it kind of loses its feel.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can just take the mission rules and play battles, but you're right. You are right. It's just...
It's sort of like Phil's turn off to
Flames of War.
Flames of War. It's like, I'd like it, but playing Germany and all that, I know I'm gonna lose. So I wouldn't feel. It would bother me that when I win against certain forces that I should be losing against.
Which is, I get that if you were playing like a specific battle in which Germany lost, and I feel similarly. Like, okay, I'm playing in a World War II historical game. I know that if we were to play this to its logical conclusion, I would lose, but the Germans won plenty of battles against people, so I'm not going to say that you take it on that front, but I get that's why with historical gaming, I don't like it too much because you know how the thing's supposed to end.
Yeah.
But and the Hobbit kind of rubs me that way too a bit, but also it just doesn't scream war game to me. It screams RPG.
Yeah, I could see it playing better as an RPG.
like, I would play the heck out of a Lord of the Rings based setting RPG where you're just a random character. And, you know, it had that MMO for a time, which was an interesting idea. I love that when it went free to play, I love the commercial that they did.
What commercial was this?
It was basically, I forget the exact setting, it might have been some type of city or somewhere, and it was when free to play. And so a Gandalf type of character walks up. I don't know if they got the actor to do it or not. And he basically does the "You shall not pass." But he goes, "You shall not pay," and slams his staff on the ground. And then it was free to play, which is pretty funny. It was a pretty
I'm gonna have
idea.
to find this one now.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember. It was. I saw it like actually on TV back in the day when they did it. So I don't remember too much of the specifics. I just remember the line, "You shall not pay," and it was fantastic. But that's the type of setting that I would be more gung ho for with Middle Earth and a miniature war game. For me personally, but yeah, no. The other thing with the going back to the Forge World right quick is it's interesting that they did something again for the Word Bearers.
Okay.
But the Word Bearers kind of have a full roster as it is with stuff offered for them. You know, miniature range-wise. And the reason I say that more so with this is I don't know why this Tainted Dreadnought's in the character series. You know, like I get it. He's probably
it is weird.
He's probably a dude, you know, important and all that. But it seems like more of a model somebody would take just to have a possessed Dreadnought feel.
Especially since it only counts as an elite choice.
Right. So it was a bit odd to see it in the character series, but it'd be cool if Wordbear's got a brass etching or a decal sheet. But I would rather see efforts put in place for the Iron Warriors, the Imperial Fists, the Raven Guard, or the Alpha Legion. You know, the legions that really don't have much.
Yeah, I feel really bad right now because, like, for Protarbo and Korax, and Alfarius, they still have no models.
They don't, and it's funny that we should
and
see
Ultimar's
the concept.
Getting one. Yeah,
we see the concept for the Ultramarines Primarch, but we haven't seen anything for the other legions that are actually in the book already.
Yes, it's just like, wow, man. Why don't you... Because right now I think we're missing Protarbo, Korax, Doran, and...
Rogel Doran
and Alfarius.
Yeah. We're missing, basically, Book 3.
Yeah.
We're missing everything from Book 3. You don't even have, like, models, really. The Iron Warriors have a Contemptor Dreadnought, some Land Raider Rhino Doors, and some shoulder pads.
Yep.
The Alpha Legion has shoulder pads, Land Raider Rhino Doors, and the Contemptor Dreadnought. The Raven Guard, and for some reason the Alpha Legion have the Mark 6 pattern armor in their section. I don't know why. The Raven Guard have the most, but really 3 of those things were from the 40k side of stuff, which isn't bad.
Yep.
They look good and they fit. It's just that it's not like it's... The only new thing they have, really, is
the Contemptor Dread.
The Contemptor Dread. So, and the what is it, the Imperial Fists that I said? The Imperial Fists got the most stuff recently, but they're still missing out on some things, like their Special Squad, their Primarch. They have the most. The Raven Guard have second most, but they have the most brand new stuff the Imperial Fists do. But it's just funny we saw the supposed leaking of the Primarch of the Ultramarines, but we still have a whole book to go through to finish.
Yeah. But it seems like, I guess, typically, what I've noticed is typically when a big deal Primarch is coming out, they immediately throw him up as a release for the book. Like, a good example is Vulcan and Horus didn't have a model when Book 2 came out. But when Book 2 came out, Ferrus Manus was released. So it may... And then they went back and made Horus.
Right, it's just that Rogel Dorn, the Primarch solely in charge of fortifying Terra, doesn't have a model.
Not yet. Like, they're probably going to throw out Gulliman, Gulliman, however you want to pronounce it, out with the new book, and then they're going to go back and make one or two of the other Primarchs, because that's what they did last time, is they made the big figurehead of one book, then they filled in the missing Primarchs that they got from that other book.
True, it's just that I'm trying to remember, I believe Imperial Fist, Iron Warriors, Raven Guard, and Alpha Legion are in Book 3. And
yes.
When Book 3 came out, none of those had a Primarch come out with it.
Yeah. That is very true.
It's funny because, of all the Primarchs, I would say Rogel Dorn is kind of meant to be opposite Horus.
Yes.
Because, he is now I wouldn't say the favored son, but he's now the son in charge of defending the Emperor solely.
Yes. Which is odd. I always thought that was Gilliman.
Gilliman is he's weird. The reason he's weird is that he's been billed in old fluff and still fluff today, and even post-heresy fluff stuff, as he was a warrior king.
Yes.
More so of, he's really good at conquering and laying out the infrastructure and making sure everything gets up to speed quick. He's not the, it's weird because he's a prodigal, they're all prodigal sons, but he's more that, and Rogel Dorn is basically in pure skill level of his or not skill level, in pure legion basis, his legion is opposite Iron Warriors, and that's all sieging and fortification, and Imperial Fists are good at that. So you could say on one level he's the anti Iron Warriors, but also on the political level he's anti Horus.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird too because then you think it's the loyalist side is more convoluted when you look at the political levels and stuff, because then he has Sanguinus, who's also kind of like the Emperor's, I don't want to say champion, but it essentially is his figurehead son, and he also is really stout defender on loyalist to the Emperor, and he also quite literally went against Horus, literally. Yep. So it's a bit odd. It's a bit odd in that front, but it's just, I don't know. I want to see the Corax model, and the Corax model I think is going to prove to be an interesting one because you have how he is normally.
Yep.
But then you have optional rules from when he is behind enemy lines in the drop site massacre, where he doesn't have his jump pack because that was damaged. He only has part of his weapons, and he wields a heavy bolter like Marines wield bolters.
Yes.
So he's got a different warrior loadout. His stat line is basically kind of the same, but his war gear, what he has, is different. His armor is a bit more damaged. Like, it represents him clearly surviving.
Being stuck behind lines. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the Primarch model for Corax is going to have that optional loadout configuration to field him as. Because that's one thing about specifically his, because with Turbo is either he has a hammer or he doesn't. That's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Different hand swap, that's it. But for his thing, that's a pretty significant change, and it's not like, well, I'll just convert up a Primarch model now that we've seen what they're doing with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the size and whatnot. So it's kind of like, are they going to include that? And if they're not, then what if I want to represent that? What do I do?
Buy two.
And then cut up this second one, which feels almost like a heresy to cut up a model like that.
Heresy to alter those figures.
Well, there's character series models. There are models that you really don't want to have to alter. Yeah. Especially for the price. I'm going to cut up no, I don't want to cut up that model. What if I mess it up? I can't exactly start over.
Yep.
So that's the concern for that. I really want to see Perturbo because he's one of the ones I'm really curious to see, and he has probably the most effective armor in the game. Just because of all the special rules his armor confers to him. Like, it's really cool. Like, he basically has the Iron Man suit. Of Marvel. Like how it has, I can block blindness, and I can do this and that. I have these uplinks and integrated weaponry. Plus, my attacks count like I basically have a power sword or something like that. And stuff. Like, he basically is wearing the Iron Man Extremis armor.
And he's got just what's called an arm cannon.
Yeah, he's got, his wrist cannon or whatever it is.
It's beyond description, except for what kind of gun it is and where it's mounted.
Right. You know a Primarch means business for sure when he doesn't have a flowery name for his weapons. Like, it's not like the Dark Spear of Fate or something along those lines. Like, what do you got? It's cannon. Okay. Well, I'm not going to mess with you then, because you don't even care. You care so little.
Yeah, that, and he has special rules for he also has a special rules for a Bane Blade.
Yeah, he basically gets a Shadow Sword as a transport.
Yeah.
A dedicated transport Shadow Sword, so you don't mess with that, but his wrist cannons, not to say, are really powerful for being labeled wrist cannon.
Yeah.
Like, when you actually look at the rules of like the profile of his weapons, they're pretty powerful, and they're just called wrist cannon. Alpharius has a weapon called the Pale Spear. Ooh. The most flowery named thing of Perturbos is his armor called the Logos. It's not even that fanciful of a name.
Yep.
It's just the Logos, and you're like, okay, sounds good. So I mean, if there's any one suit of armor that I would like to, if you could make one up in a fashion of and have the traits of, I would want the Logos, because you have everything you need: ranged weaponry, tactical readouts, protection. It's the Iron Man armor,
and it makes Julian fries.
It does. It has to. It's a prerequisite.
Yeah.
But it's like, and it's fitting that the Iron Warriors have the Iron Man armor, essentially. But that's what it is, and it's Terminator armor, so it looks even cooler. It looks really, really imposing. But everybody else has got really slick armor. Don't get me wrong, but nobody else's armor basically goes, you're a one-man army with wearing this.
Yeah, pretty much. It
really is like he's stepping into Iron Man's suit and just wrecking face. So. And then, by the way, there's an optional role to give him the hammer that Ferrus Manus used to have, and then he just wrecks more face. So it's just like...
Because then he's wielding Forge Breaker.
Yes, exactly. So that's why they want to see what, his armor, because it's going to look pretty cool. And they're all going to look really cool. Rogel Dorn has the Imperial, the eagle wings of impracticalness behind him.
Yeah.
Forget looking over your shoulder when you're Rogel Dorn. You can't, because there's a bunch of gold in the way.
Pretty much.
But it's just interesting. I want to see if they're going to try and out-top every special character having a bigger and bigger base they sit on.
Yeah.
You're going to have a model. It's going to be 13 inches of base and then the model on top of it eventually.
Yep. Eventually. The one thing with that still is I'm still super curious to see what they're going to do with Magnus with that, because I'm like, that man he's huge.
Yeah, he's big already, so they're probably going to give him the smallest base, hopefully.
Yes, probably he'll be on a 28 millimeter.
Yeah, good to me. But I just want to see if they're going to do him and Leonard Russ justice and give them crazy 80s air metal hair.
Air metal death hair. They're going to be the Battle of the Rock Band hairs.
I mean, quite literally, their hair should be a good third of their model. Honestly.
They're going to have no backpack, because hair.
It's just hair in the way. Like, you want to talk about... I mean, if fearless gamers, if you haven't seen pictures of Leonard Russ or Magnus and Russ from the card game, where they were, you got to look it up. Their hair knows no bounds. That's why I'm saying it should be a third of their model. Should be just hair. Yes. And then they should release a tutorial how to paint hair, because you're gonna need it.
Yes. He's got ridiculous amounts of hair, Russ. And Magnus, his whole helmet was designed to hold his hair.
Yeah, I mean, Magnus has got a bunch of hair, and then Leonard Russ has... It was kind of like Leonard Russ. Leonard Russ has like the hair that he's got it permed at least once a week. Like Magnus's hair is really big and almost out of control, but more of that like straight and just I look like a crazy like Albert Einstein almost, but straight hair on steroids. Like I am like gifted intelligent wise long hair, if that makes any sense, of hair metal. And then Leonard Russ looks like what 80s hair metal used to do and get crazy perms of puffiness.
The best pictures are by far the one from Prospero Burns where you see just Russ with all these long freaking tassels of hair everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Magnus, where it's just hair behind him. On the Thousand Suns novel, you just see head, helmet, hair.
It's true. Like you really, and his hair is massive, and no matter what you look at it, and those are some of the best ways to see the hair. But
yes.
I don't know why their hair is crazy. And don't get me wrong, you got his hair on the cover for Leonard Russ looks pretty tame. That's because he actually has it in a top knot there.
Yes.
And he has it bright, like very, the whole stereotypical Viking look type of thing and everything. But his hair is pretty wild. Like when you see some of the card art, his hair is wild. His pet wolves didn't want to be outdone by hair.
What are their names again?
Oh, is it Grekki and Frekki?
Yeah, that's right. They better have rules for them.
Oh, they have to. They have to. Like, if you ever get a chance to see the Heresy card game art for actual Magnus the Red's card, you see a towering hulk of a dude, and then you have his head, and then you have the hair flowing upwards from his head like he's descending down out of screen.
Yep.
Like his hair exceeds the limits of the art section for him. Like his hair is huge, and
yes, it's like that's all the top section of the card.
Yeah, like I mean, look at the hair for and of course the Thousand Suns really does a good job with the cover. I'm looking at it again, and his hair is pretty big, even though you can't see him too well.
Yeah, because he's all in energy flow, and
it's probably a psychic projection. I mean, he doesn't actually stand that tall amongst his guys. That's like tight.
Yeah, no.
But
no, he's not that huge. He can grow that huge now with his Demon Princey abilities, but he wasn't that big when he was not a Demon Prince.
Right. But I want them to basically have the Battle of the Hair in model form. Like,
you know what? If it's not its own separate bit, then it's not right.
And like the card art for Leonard Russ, his hair, and I guess you could say a bit of a wolf pelt to kind of help accentuate it, go off as well. It's just that and the reason I'm making such a big deal about it, in case people go, oh, man, it's really harping on the hair. Look at every other Primarch except for like Korax and Haunter and the Lion. Everybody else has got baldness to short cropped hair.
Yes.
You got the Lion who has a long, literal mane of hair. But he does keep it tied back usually, but his hair is like the third place prize for that. For 80s hair metal hair,
he's the runner-up.
He's like the runner-up from those two. And then you have Korax, who of course he's the goth, so he's got to have the crazy goth hair. And you have Nighthunter, who's the other goth, who's got to have the crazy goth hair. But it's not like their hair is long and straight and nowhere near as wild as these two's. Yes.
So the reason everyone has no hair is because they both took it all.
Basically, that was the tragic accident when they were flung to the different corners of the galaxy. All the hair went to those two.
But my hair!
I mean, Horus has virtually no hair. Angron has no hair. Not Vulcan.
Vulcan has no hair.
I thought
Vulcan has no hair.
Yeah. Gilliman is kind of sure. Sanguinus has surprisingly the angel who has pretty cropped hairs. I mean, it's long, but it's kept well.
It's kept well.
I mean, Fulgrim, I guess, depends on what level of depravity he's in with his hair. To be honest, he does have flowing hair too, but it's. Yes. It's
the Fabio hair.
Yeah, he's got that hair. But when you look at a good chunk of them, they either bald or short cropped. And the Lion actually wears a helmet, so he keeps his hair tied back. I mean, not saying others don't. I mean, others do. But for long-haired people, he actually wears a helmet.
Yeah.
I don't remember them ever saying anything in the novels about Leonard Russ or Magnus wearing an actual helmet, but I will call BS if they ever did, because there's no way they can contain all that hair.
Magnus is usually drawn with like a crown,
which is
that
fine.
only attaches to the front and is opened in the back.
I'm okay with the
because
crown.
Of hair.
Yeah, I'm okay with crown, but I mean like a full battle helmet, like the lion helmet. I call BS if Leonard Russ actually ever wears a helmet, because I'm gonna go, where'd all that hair go?
There go.
You can't.
Heresy. It's the power of Fenris, he'd say.
Right. But
the
it's
safe magics of Fenris.
And it's funny, because I can't even say, well, if you're good, you have long hair, because it's split 50-50.
Yeah.
You got Magnus, but you have Leonard Russ, who's good. You have the Lion, who's good. I mean, people say ambiguous there, and I slapped them.
Yeah.
Enough of that. And then you have Korax, who's good, but you got Nighthunter, who's bad, Fulgrim, who's bad. And, but the real big players, Rogel, Dorn, Horus, Gaiman, have short hair. And so you can't say short hair is evil either, because it's split 50-50.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I want those would be pretty cool looking models regardless, because Leonard Russ is the only Space Wolf thing that I actually like, because the character development of that character is pretty legit.
Yes, he is the only good Space Wolf you can make an argument for.
Like, I like him because they actually put thought into his character, and didn't, like, I'll tell you, and I've harped on this before, and I'll harp on it again here and in the future, the problem with the Space Wolves is kind of like somebody who's power gaming in D&D. They want to be everything. Yeah. And, like, they're described as being everything, and it's really annoying.
And I also like, because, like, we do have a moment where Russ is sitting there going, like, oh, hello there, what are you doing, blah, 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 blah. And, Doran or someone says, oh, Russ, must you always be so, barbaric? And then he just goes, hey, dude, I'm just kidding. Come on. Where's your sense of humor?
I like that it's an act with him, because he's still a Primarch.
And the Remembrance actually says it like Russ is a different man when he tells the dude to just relax.
Yeah.
He's like, this is not the Russ I've been seeing this whole time.
Exactly, and it's just like, what I like about him is he's got a clear-cut thing. He views himself as the executioner for the Emperor. You unleash my hounds, we'll do what you require. But he has that understanding and kind of that noble purpose, if you will. He's burdened with glorious purpose. Of being the executioner. Like, he understands the weight. But when you look at the Space Wolves proper, his forces, they may be a hint of understanding that they are executioners and they do the dirty work, but it's, we're feral, but we're cunning. We're hot-headed, but we're calm, cool, and cool. It can't be...
No one understands how we work.
They basically, the way they describe themselves is a giant contradiction. It's like, we're hot, but we're cold. We're mean, but we're nice. It's like, wait, what?
We're hot and we're cold. We're yes and we're no.
Right? That's what they're in there and they're out. Up and they're down.
Yep.
But like, that's the way they describe themselves in their novels and stuff that they do. It's like, and it's like somebody playing D&D. It's like, I want to be a rogue who's a barbarian wizard. What?
Yes.
What did you just say? No, my character, listen, he started off as a rogue, right? But he stole a book and it's been bound to him, and he learned the magic from it. But then he got really drunk one day and went crazy and raged like a barbarian. And it's like, no, stop.
But then he was blessed by the god Yundel, so now he's a paladin.
And it's like, it's somebody trying to be the ultimate D&D problem of D&D, which is the everything.
Yeah.
And it's not just D&D, but it's the best example.
Yeah, because it's where you find it always.
Right.
Most of it's described in D&D characters.
It is, and
it's a shame to make fun of them, but they're the best example.
It is. I mean, the fact of the whole idea of prestige classing is kind of like the game saying, okay, we know you want to be crazy, so here you go. But and it's like, it's funny because D&D before MMO, like, looking back at it, D&D set the framework for how MMOs, especially the stuff that's now WoW based, fight. It's all about min-maxing your character to get the most loot. The raids, you guys, instead of raiding, you had the party, and you had distinctive roles. No other real RPG does it like that. Like, there's not that White Wolf. You don't take down the dragon raid. There's no such thing. Like, and D&D is basically the MMO beta, if you will, on paper.
Yep.
And that's how MMOs function. It's basically the way D&D has been functioning. And it's funny because it's so on paper. It's kind of, in my opinion, more unique to D&D. I don't think LVR really does it like that. I mean, you kind of get that in Death Watch, but it's implied. What are you? I'm the Apothecary. What are you? The Heavy Weapons guy, the Devastator. Oh, okay, we have roles and we're going to fill them out. Tactically, though, you know, it's not. In D&D, it's literally, I'm the rogue, so I'm going to do a crazy backflip backstab, while the Paladin, like, gets teleported to the high heavens and dropped with his super spear attack, while the Warrior just screams. You know, like...
And the Barbarian joins with them saying, I can go louder.
Right, and then, like, the Wizard and the Sorcerer are just conjuring up their high-level spells, and the Druid's getting ready
in the other room.
Yeah, and the Cleric's getting ready to heal everybody. It's like, okay, mass heal ready, and it's like, and like the Druid is gonna, you know, call the bestial companions and shapeshift to help tank with the war. Like, it's specifically an MMO.
Yep, it's
pretty funny, but and that, my friends, is the way that the Space Wolves are, which is makes. Really, the thing that I don't like, to bring it back to Space Wolves, I compare it to the Blood Angels. The Blood Angels are viewed as kind of vampiric, but they're not, you know, it's not like Vlad the Impaler or Nosferatu leads them. They're not Transylvanian and vampiric feeling, you know?
Yeah.
The Space Wolves have this werewolf aspect kind of totem feel to them. Fine. But then we threw the Viking Norse thing on top of that, and we gave them both, and then we pursued both to two different ends, but put it back in the same thing. The Blood Angels are very Greco-Roman in their feel. Yep. And they have, like, this vampiric curse.
Yes, and everyone always sits there like, oh, the vampire, they're space vampires. I'm like, not all of them drink blood, you know.
Yeah, and they don't do it. They're not drinking blood casually. Like, that's what they do. They're actively resisting that urge. It's a flaw.
And if they ever do drink blood, it's a ceremonial thing.
And plenty of other chapters do it.
Feast. I mean, they got rid of Mephiston's whole "he stops and drinks the blood of his enemies" rule.
Kinda, but it's more like he has to resist the urge while fighting. You know, it's still the bloodthirst is there as an active taint, essentially. Okay. But the thing is, in terms of, like, they always go to the Blood Angels for this, but a whole bunch of legions do a blood drinking ritual. Yep. A whole bunch of chapters do that. It's a thing, but it's not like, but they're not. You can say they're the space vampires, but it's more like they're more like Dracula Untold vampires. Yeah. Where they're actively resisting the urge to do it. And that's what makes them interesting. Where, you know, the wolf and curse thing is almost embraced by Space Wolves. Like, we don't really have a curse. It's whatever. If you
read the Space Wolf novels, they just outright go, oh, by the way, this may happen to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought you kept this a secret from everybody.
Right? And the Blood Angels have this active death company to remind them that nobody's safe. And it's like a very sobering thing. And they embrace, you know, the beauty and the craftsmanship of stuff because they want to be perfect, and that's a way to hone their mind and keep them dedicated. You know, so they don't fall. And I find that they have a very nice kind of multi-layered complexity to them, and the Space Wolves could have had that, but it's just too much like the D&D Power Gamer. And, I mean, heck, Eldar are space elves, essentially, sure, but they have this whole other thing going for them. Granted, I like them better as Protoss, but that's just because I find their more alien nature makes them more intriguing as rock people Protoss. But the Eldar are much more than just space elves. You know, they have this multi-layered society in which their reliance on technology and advanced civilization is what caused their downfall, which is why them and the Exodites have a different view on things. But it's interesting. It's not Space Wolf level.
And they have to keep their minds disciplined so Slaanesh doesn't get interested in them.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying everything has to be multi-layered and crazily complex for me to like it. It's just that when you power gaming to me, which is how I just describe Space Wolves for myself, I'm not the biggest fan of. And I understand 40K is all about being over the top. It is.
Yes.
It's the game of over the topness. Is this type of over the topness for Space Wolves is not my cup of tea. I can fully see why people enjoy it. And I always say, you know, the celebration of life and stuff that the Space Wolves kind of do in their feasts and whatnot, I think would have been better for the Valhallan Imperial Guard, who were very clearly kind of close to having a similar culture thing. I think Imperial Guard having that Norse Viking-esque feast and celebratory stuff, to me, would be a lot cooler, because they're much more human and they're very clearly going to die. Where Space Marines, no Space Marine has died of old age. Put it to you that way. So.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's just, I think that's, for me personally, I totally get all the Space Wolf fans. I talked about it before. Oh. But what people, I just had to describe why I don't think the Blood Angels are an appropriate response to somebody not liking Space Wolves, because of the dramatic differences there.
Yeah.
And hopefully, in harping on this, some people will post their thoughts in the comment section, because I'm curious. I want to know if people can, why they may or may agree or disagree, or why they may feel Blood Angels are just like the Space Wolves, because that's just my opinion. I look at it as, we got a flaw, we don't want to become Death Company, we haven't figured a way to fix this, and I view that as different from Space Wolves. But if you have a compelling argument as to why they are the same, I would love to hear it.
Yep. So, and with that, we are out of time. So, thank you all for listening. Have a good week, everybody, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
James the Wildcard.
Saying take care.
Protoss!